Good day, everyone. We are Group 7 and we will deliver our analysis of our short story and poem, Massacre in Aleppo, written by Selahattin Demirtas. The author Selahattin Demirtas was born on April 10, 1973. He is a Kurdish origin Turkish politician, novelist, and former member of Turkish parliament. From 2014 to 2018, he was a co-leader of the left-wing pro-Kurdish People's Democratic Party, alongside Figen Yoksekta. The main characters in the story are Hamdullah, the chef and the owner of the restaurant. He is very calm, a good cook, hardworking, and loyal. Next is Bereket, the nephew of Hamdullah. He has been working at the restaurant of Hamdullah since childhood, as good as 19 years. He is very attached to his job and works with pleasure. And lastly, Ruki. She is Hamdullah's first love, married of the age of 16, and she is among the 68 ruptured bodies. She is beautiful. Other characters in the story are Sadruddin, the hairdresser, grandfather of Hamdullah, Hamdullah's uncle, Ruki's husband, and Ruki's two children. A short description of the setting. The typical Middle East, exploding bombs, dozens of ruptured bodies, and dead bodies littered around. Hatay is the nearest town to Aleppo. It is so close that the city residents may hear the explosions if they prick up their ears. Beautiful dishes and utensils are the famed Hatay snacks that made the place full of tourists. Tourists also started to come when they heard about Hamdullah's restaurant, which was decorated with artificial trees where you can eat in a more natural forest setting. Since the start of the war, there has been no joy, no fragrances, and no colors in Aleppo's markets. It's like going to a lifeless hospital room.
The tale was told from the perspective of a third character who was present in the story but not a part of it. This was illustrated by the fact that the tale solely provided the narrator's perspective on a scenario, the events that occurred around him, his observations, what he had seen and heard, and his comments, each of which has been truly displayed and described in the story. The narrator was most likely a visitor or a local who was telling what he had heard or seen at a specific time period, such as when he shared the tale of Hamdullah's life and his family, another time when he discussed the famous snacks and foods in the areas they are in. He was the one in charge of telling the story of Hamdullah and the people around him. He describes what he had seen, his thoughts about the moment. There are many indications that the story was narrated in the third point of view, such as when he stated that he became astounded by the calmness of Self Hamdullah and how he visited his place, the restaurant, 3 times in a week. Moving on to the tone of the story was written in two opposite general tones. One is hopeful and the other is negative and wistful. The hopeful tone was presented by the way the author included the chef and other characters that continued their lives in the midst of the war and all the misfortunes that have came to them, and also by the part where the author keeps adding and describing the culture and traditions, especially in foods, in a positive manner. It was portrayed in words like wonderful, cheered, and pleasure. On the other hand, the author also keeps a negative and wistful tone throughout the story. This was presented by how the author kept mentioning the victims of the war, the misfortunes of Hamdullah and Ruki, and even how Hamdullah's nephew Barakat lost his wife. The tone was portrayed by the words dad died, sadness, and not there. The author wrote the story in a narrative style which made the story easier to understand and made it seem like there would be hope even after misfortunes happened. This is by how he included the food cultures and traditions, a family's life after the war, the places that keep running, and so on. The group thinks that the author made a good decision in writing the story in a narrative style since it has become something that makes readers have reflections about life. Furthermore, it's a good thing since it influenced the readers to think more about the scene, setting, characters, and emotions in the story.
The story somewhat used situational irony, showing difference to what is expected to happen and what actually happens. It helped the story be less scary by talking about something more pleasant, like the dishes of the restaurant, after narrating about a tragic event like bombings and death. The major idea of the story is about how valuable life is and that nobody is allowed to just take it away. All in all, it was a very good story. The characters, setting, plot, tone, and style perfectly matched the goal of the author. It is a story that makes the readers think and cherish the material and non material things around them. It also makes them think of how beautiful things could still exist in the middle of adversity. Furthermore, it makes them confront their desires or aspirations because of the fear that they will come to regret something in the future, just like the character in the story where his love was not able to grow and push through.
In March 2011, thousands of protesters were killed, which marked the beginning of the Syrian civil war. And one of the thousands that have perished includes our dear Marina Constantine. I am Dean, together with my partner, Dominique. We will present to you our analysis of the poem Marina Shiwaro. The poem Marina Shiwaro is from a collection of poems, Aleppo Diary, written by a Syrian doctor, public health researcher, and poet Fuad Muhammad Fuad. He was born and raised in Aleppo, Syria. The publication date of the poem is unknown and nowhere to be found in the author's biography. Marina Shiwaro is originally an Arabic literature written in Arabic script and was translated into English by Samuel Wilder. The poem is an open diary, which made it straightforward and not complicated in its structure. It is a free verse type of poem where it does not have a particular rhyming pattern. The poem is presented from the first person perspective of Marina Constantine. The text revolves around the life of Marina Constantine in the middle of the war. The real event took place before and during the Syrian civil war and the pre-battle of Aleppo. Marina Constantine introduced herself as a woman in her 50s and a widow of a priest. Together with her companion Marcel, they went home, had a toast, and laughed to the secrets they seized about the Holy Church. Hair braids forgotten in an old chest of drawers. This implies that she is leaving another chapter of her life behind and moving on to the next. She experienced many things throughout her life and already faced many challenges. She is getting older and another chapter is yet to be opened. We can see in the first stanza that Marina Constantine is in a joyful occasion, having a good time with a companion with problems left out with the liquor. In second stanza, returning from the Carlton, it states that Marina has just returned to Aleppo from Carlton. The theme of reminiscent is still noticeable throughout the stanza. Associated with the feeling of happiness and longing, Marina Constantine described Carlton as a place where life clings to music and thickens like frankincense. She used a simile to describe the music of Carlton that thickens like frankincense. Frankincense is the gum or resin of the boswellia tree. It is used for making perfume and incense. It can be implied that music in Carlton is hard to take in since she is new to the tradition. But once you'll appreciate the meaning behind the music, it will stick and thickens in your ears until you long for it. In pop context, music in Carlton is a grower. Marina Constantine is recalling her experiences in Carlton while deciding if she will put salt or not on the meat to avoid spoiling. But she did anyway. She salted the meat even if she knew it will not spoil. Unsure of what will happen next, Marina Constantine still has joy in her heart. The melancholic sensation starts to fade in the scene as she said, I dip a finger in wine to rejoice my heart. You can sense that something bad might happen next. The second stanza used a few similes to describe her experience to let us, the readers, feel also the same way as she did. The feeling of loneliness is evident in every line. but still, her heart enjoys every time she remembers a scene from her past.
In the third stanza, the lines, who at the wrong third, smelled the odor of fear exuding from sweating fists. The phrase sweating fists signifies the uprising uproar of the people fighting for their freedom or their belief. This line shows Marina Constantine feeling the anger and fear of the people risking their lives in the protest. Piercing the air like lead before the citadel vanished in a magician's hat. Every line here has a double meaning. The people are protesting in a surge against a certain armed group. In the first line, an armed group opened fire at the crowd protesting. Piercing the air like lead signifies a rain of bullets is shot to kill the people. Magician's hat was clearly meant to be a bomb where it could wipe out an entire place like the citadel mentioned in the line. A group of allied forces was bombed and vanished in thin air before anyone could see. After the death of the mass, the feeling intensified, even though it's just the beginning. In the fourth stanza, we go along the story of Marina Constantine, where she and the people suffered the fallout of the war. This is shown in the entirety of the stanza. Alongside the thousand bearing roses wearing white. Bearing roses symbolizes the bodies of the people who got caught during the open firing of guns and bombs. The phrase described as the beauty of the afterlife, the beauty of peace. On Marina Constantine's observation, her corpse alongside other reached thousands. This felt like silence for Aleppo. Lastly, the line, I am Marina, if you notice, is constantly repeated in every first line of each stanza. This may be implied that the whole poem is Marina Constantine trying to remember her identity as she is fighting death. At the moment in the poem, she is still conscious but might be severely injured because of the war. This is also in her head, recalling all the best times that happened in her life and seeing through the journey that she went through and how things set off until the very moment. She is fighting in her mind, trying to remember her name and her identity. The prayer at the end of the poem, O dearly beloved, in God's hand with humble hearts, let us pray. May the Lord of our daughter, who ascends with the crown to our Lord in heaven, rest in peace. Al-Fatiha. This symbolizes the death of Marina Constantine. This can be also entailed to all the victims of the war and the people of Aleppo trying to pray and to ask for help from Allah. The author might also be encouraging the readers to pray to God that the soul of the people who were left behind will rest in peace and believe that annihilation and violence in Syria will end soon.
War is the main theme of the poem. It is the cause of the suffering of Marina Constantine and the others. The civil war made the people get on their feet and fight for what they think is right. Reminiscence is also evident in the first half of the poem. Marina Constantine descriptively expresses her longing and experiences she went through in her life. She is happy that it happened, but lonely because she can't do what she used to do. She is widowed and already nearing the age of death.
The melancholic vibe is felt throughout the poem, even at the beginning of the text. Certain words were used to emphasize the sense of defeat and silence. After the death of the mass, the feeling intensified, even though it's just the beginning of the war. This poem shows us how destructive and terrifying the Syrian civil war is and shows how much people suffered being in the middle of a war. As a reader, you can sense what they felt at the moment in time. This is an end of a decade and a start of an age. Thank you.